Hello and welcome. My name is Mary Lou and you're listening to the Hera Hotspot podcast, which is all about well-being for women both at home and at work. As part of my recent shows introducing June Barclay, this podcast explains how the book A Life with Spirit has taken shape and is near completion. We are joined today by Jane Grose and Jacqui Wallace, who have both been part of June's meditation groups over the years, and now bring their unique gifts to the book through their interviews and editing of the transcripts. We chat about their reflections of the journey with June and other people's stories and their hopes for the future of the book. With friendship being a key takeaway of this journey, it was a delight to spend time with these three gorgeous ladies. It was recorded on the hottest day of the year so far, so I'm sorry if the sound quality is distorted a bit by the fan in the background. We would have wilted without it. I hope you enjoy it. Because you write so well and you're writing these books, what is your, as a non-tertiary educated person, have you done, and having a daughter who is doing a dissertation, have you done dissertations and PhDs? Are you used to analysing stories and pushing them down in that?
Yes. So my background is that although I started off in nursing and in health, I'm now I spent the last 20 years as an academic. So and my area of academia is qualitative research, and that's all about stories, and that's
what my daughter does, which I'm starting to understand.
Yes. Yeah. And qualitative research is all about hearing the stories and trying to understand the similarities between people's stories, and then you analyse across those stories to come up with themes so that it's partly a confidentiality thing, but also it's about trying to understand, they call it the essence. You try to get to the essence or the truth of what a particular issue is. So that's what I do, and I'm really fascinated by it, and it doesn't really matter what the subject is. Because it's amazing how something you think, well, I'm not sure I'm very interested in that, becomes endlessly fascinating when you hear enough stories about it.
And try and find that common thread.
And you try and find the common threads, but you also try and find some areas of difference as well. So that's part of what makes the story, is that, you know, you sort of say, although the majority of people were saying this, there were these three people who had a completely different take on it. And that's interesting in its own right.
A little bit like the feminine face of God. They were saying they had a really clear idea of where they wanted it to go, and they just went left field.
Right. One of the dangers is that people always start off thinking, oh, I know what the answer is to this. Certainly I remember, before I started my PhD, I remember thinking I could do this in 6 weeks, I know what the answer is. And by the time I'd finished, 4 years later, it was a completely different way of seeing what the issue was.
So kind of surrendering, letting your ego go.
You have to. You have to surrender everything about yourself. And in fact, that's one of the issues, is you have to acknowledge that there may be some of yourself in the interpretation, and you try really hard, the word is bracket, you try and bracket out who you are or what you're coming with, and just say, tell me your story.
So when you are offered or were asked to do this?
I offered.
You offered. So when you offered to do this, did it cloud it because you are a spiritual person? So when you're saying you have to take that part of yourself out of this?
I hope I didn't, because what helped was that I understood where June was coming from in a way, but I hope that the questions that I asked all the way through were about, you know, where June came from, which I didn't know the story particularly, but what came through very strongly during that time was how much Stuart wanted to be involved. And
had you known at the beginning, had that been the plan, or was it just
evident?
No. What happened, Vic Rendell happened in here, Evie, all that stuff. She walked out the door one day and she got to the top of the driveway there, and she turned around and knocked on the door, and opened the door. She said, I just need to write a book about you for what's just happened. Okay. I thought, you know, when you come out of here, you're all a bit like that. I thought, yeah, okay. I thought that might happen. You know, what's that all that going to be about? I went, yeah, fine, yeah, okay. And then that didn't happen, did it? And then Penny, who used to come, was an author of some description, and she was going to write the book. And then I think because it all got a bit waylaid, then you said to me, didn't you? I really want to write a book.
Yeah.
And I kept sending Jack courses. There you go, then go on a course, right?
But it was an interesting journey, because when we had that Christmas get together and you came up and offered, and I was like, fantastic, and it just
and I sat
flowed
next to
from
Jane
that January.
that day.
We started in the January, didn't we?
Yeah, but with the day of Bridget's celebrant and time,
A blessing, a wedding blessing, yeah.
You said to me in there, didn't you? You know I can write a book, don't you? I can write your book. I thought, she don't know me though. She only comes to group. She don't know anything about me. Might not be that interesting. That's what I'm thinking in my head. And I thought, I think I sort of avoided the subject that day, didn't I? Until the Christmas. And I sat next to Jane and she said it again. And I thought, Jack was already buzzing about it. Oh, there we go then.
I think what was really exciting in the January was we'd still be on the first chapter now. And you had it all worked out, and I think with Stuart coming in, that bonding that you had with him was amazing.
That was amazing with Stuart.
Well, I was surprised about that, because what was really interesting, I was talking about this morning actually, is that when my head felt like it was going to burst, and I'd come in and say, I think he wants to be part of what's going on. I didn't really know. I wouldn't say no, it was Stuart, but I just assumed it was Stuart because it was so heavy in my head. And I'd say he wants to write the next section, and then you'd start talking to him, and he'd write the next section. And that's what I really like about the text, is that you've got a beginning, middle, and end from Stuart. And that's why at the beginning I wrote by June Barclay, because of course it's by him as well, and I really felt that was important, and right towards the end of the time I felt that it was important.
It was. So when you kept offering to Jean, saying I can write this book, do you think Stuart was prompting you to?
Possibly, because I don't necessarily offer myself in those ways normally. But it was
insistent.
It was, and it was really interesting. Was that when we were sitting down. And you said, "Oh, Jack's going to write the book." I had a sense from Jack that you suddenly realised the enormity of what you studied. And I thought to myself,
"Oh, Jack,
I know."
Jane, it's been the most amazing journey. It really has been. It's been a wonderful experience.
Even for me. I mean, I don't really, how I cried at the beginning, into myself and all that. But it has been so interesting, because out of that has come so much more.
Yes.
It's just by relaxing and thinking, oh well, let's do it. It's like, I think it's a little bit of the ego as well there, because I thought, hang on a minute, who wants to be the front page of a book? It frightened the life out of me, to be honest.
I think I don't know whether, and you probably have a much better take on this now, Mary. I don't think it's just about June, is it, anymore?
It wasn't, never meant to be.
No, and that you made that so clear at the beginning, and I kept it. That's why I wanted to go and talk to other people and get them to write that second part, to take some of the stories of people's lives and sort of knit it together in a story. And I think that's why I think it's great that you've taken on this next stage, because I think in my mind, I had taken this as far as I could go. And I didn't, and I was beginning to think to myself, well, we could publish it as it is, but it would be about this big. And so it's really fantastic. I think we have very different skills, and so I think it's fantastic that you're doing this bit now. I think it's great that I was able to go and say, right, here you are, go on then, off you go. But
it hasn't actually grown. It has grown a little bit.
A little bit, not much,
but not much. I reread it again yesterday. And it is, and we have sat and we've looked, but we keep reminding ourselves it's for the newbie. So there are so many facets you can bring in, so many fascinating things. And even bringing in the rose, we thought, gosh, are we going a step too far? Because it's reminding ourselves it's to someone who is so unfamiliar with this. You don't want to intimidate them or scare them off or overwhelm them. So, as I was saying, my daughter's school is about mastery of a certain section. But what I like, and Jean had right from the beginning, we were going to take the scenic route.
That's what I got shown.
So the right-hand turn, and we totally came off the book, going, oh, hang on, I'm here to do a book, and I'm doing a lot of podcasting, not a lot of book writing. But I feel, and I was saying to Jean this morning, that throughout the book, we can put links to the podcast and now to meditation. So in a way, we've given it breadth, but not in the written form.
Exactly.
So although it still may not be as big as we'd hoped, I think the reach, and Gina's forever saying the reach, the impact that podcasts are having and the feedback we're getting and the stories are huge.
They are.
So if anything, it's created, and we've used the term in the Temple Path, a container. And that container contains different parts of it, in different forms really. But you've also been told that there's more to come.
I have.
So we've not been pushing it at all. We're just sitting back very patiently.
Yeah, and it was Hilary that said there is another, just encouraging, and you heard it, didn't you? Don't go doing it yet, don't get it published, because there's going to be there's a third string to your bow.
Good.
So what that is, although I think I know what it is then.
Oh, fantastic.
But I think also with the Temple Path, that will be nice to put at the end of the book, so then people can join this community.
Rather than going, oh, that's it, I'm now in the left-hand
Yeah,
path.
yeah,
There's actually a direction for them
Yeah.
to
Yes. And I think that's
find on their
very
own.
good.
I think that's the right way. El Maria turned up. I wasn't even. Was I channeling that day? I don't even know.
Well, we were recording and you came up, then you started channeling, like, oh, hang on, there's quite a big at the end. It was massive.
Well, look round at Mary Lou. She was sort of stuck in the corner.
That's my laugh.
I think it's something about that corner, you know.
There is something about that
See, that's Mary Lou's corner. That's the one.
But you know what was so interesting? Hilary phoned me. She messaged me and said, "How about we have a birthday chat today? I'll talk to you later. We can talk all night if you want." Okay, I love it. You know, Hilary on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm talking to her and I said to her, "Have you got a new guide?" She went, "Well, I don't know. I have not looked." I said, "Well, there's somebody staying there with a white turban on." So she said, oh, yeah, it's El Maria. She said, "Oh, God, he's turned up. Now I'm going to be needed to doing something." And then all of a sudden, this horse. Man on a horse. And I've got the card. It makes that valiant
courage.
He's riding his horse through the bedroom, holding his ensign. And I've described it. I said to her, "It's not a flag. I don't know what it is. It's a pointy thing." She went, "June, it's called an ensign." I went, "Oh, is it? Oh, that's what it's called." So I'm thinking all this is for her. Actually, I think El Maria was for me.
Lovely.
So he turned up and talked about the Temple Path.
And that was on your birthday.
That's when that came on, about the valiant, you know.
It's your birthday gift.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
That's very good.
Oh, very good. Good, isn't it? And then I've got Nikki. Do you remember Nikki?
Here.
She lived at the nunnery with Shamara, and she's lived there for months. Carl and Nikki have both stayed in the El Maria room.
Amazing.
So she sent me all this information. Did I send? I don't know if I sent it to you.
Yeah.
He's had, so many lives, as you know.
Fantastic.
And she knows all the lives because they're all listed at Shaman's.
What I've really liked about all this is that really, if I had any part in this, it was about kick-starting a process. And I think getting you to sit down,
Yeah, it was.
with the dictaphone and say, "Tell me your story," was when you were very reticent about it at the beginning, and finally, and I was saying, "It doesn't matter, ignore the machine, just tell me your story." And I think that was, you needed to start.
Yeah.
Everybody was saying, "No, I'll write a book, and nobody's doing it, and I'm a doer." So all I've done is kickstart a process, and that's fine by me. That's exactly how it should be, because I am absolutely no expert. I just know how to organise text. That's my only skill in life. So I think to myself,
Well, I think you dragged it
brilliant.
out of me wonderfully.
It did. We just went on, and it's really interesting. Obstacles were put in our way. Then Ian's problems came along, and all those sort of things. But I think that's all the role is to be able to say my role was to kickstart it, and that's I feel really. I don't feel any sense of ownership or anything. I just feel my job is to go. Come on now, kick, and get things moving.
I think but you gave the structure you've given and your introductions and all that. When I first read it, I mean now it's more authentic, but I was blown away. I just thought you'd just written it really beautifully, and the way you'd brought together other people's expectations of religion or life, I just thought was really, really nicely done. And the way you took all the interviews.
And they sort of talk about that in that book, don't they? About religious side of it and all that. And there was one bit, I didn't write notes, I wish I had done, but I think I said to you the other week, all I think I am with this job is I'm the key and you've all got the lock. And they only say it in here, portrayals of women as the holders of the keys to locked doors behind which, and the way I read that, it was exactly what we talked about with the locks and the keys. That's and that basically is it. If I'm the key and the key fits that lock and it opens that door, off
and I
we
think
go.
everybody in the world has, we walk through the world and we influence other people's lives and we're influenced by other people's lives.
Yeah.
In fact, I once wrote about this, saying it's like a sea of ping pong balls, and we're all walking through the sea of ping pong balls, and the ping pong balls occasionally hit us, and sometimes they hit us in a big way, and sometimes we hit the ping pong balls and they fly off in other directions. But that's exactly what the sort of nature I see in my head, because I see these things in pictures, as the nature of reality.
That's exactly the same. I see it as tadpole. All tadpole little babies, all connected. They're all individual. We're part of this huge mass. And I've always said to children who don't quite know what to do, if you shine your light, the 5 people around you will touch them and they'll touch someone else, and you can't affect the mass. Yeah. It's about just the people, the ping pong balls or the little tadpoles that are around you.
I rather like the idea that we're all just a lump of frog spawn.
Very good.
I just
Listening silver, wonderful frog spawn.
Yeah, I think it's lovely. No, I think it is, and the whole idea about religion is that, there's no wrong religion. People are all just trying to find their way. It's obviously the interpretation of those things, and anything that you pump down people's throats is obnoxious.
But that's their only option. I think because you're either a Buddhist or a Christian or an Anglican or a Methodist, because they shout the loudest and those are the forms. And we had this in a podcast last week or the week before. When I was looking, it's like I don't want to do those formulated things, but I know I want something. And this has no book, has no church, has no doctrine, but actually I think this is more far-reaching. And for me, this book and what you do is about giving it not even a label, but giving it a container somewhere for people to explore without, well, I have to believe this, or I have to do this, or I have to be somewhere in a weekly, or all that expectation, which really takes away from it all. But it's about getting, this is a choice, this is an option alongside all those other religions that you can just sit in the light and connect.
Don't you think it's fundamentally about people? And the thing is that even the church is about the people. It's about the people who go. Some of them are nice and some of them aren't. And that's the same. It's all about people. Buddhism, it's about the people who are practicing it, and it's how they manage that practice and how they live it. And most religions talk about love and care. I mean, unfortunately, it's horribly misinterpreted, but they all talk about, love each other as you love yourself. First of all, you need to sort yourself out before you can do good to others. All those sort of things. They all say the same things.
Every
the
one of them.
Quran or the Torah, all those things, they're all saying it's all about love. And then unfortunately, people with egos decide they'll write a book about it and make it, and therefore you've got to do this, and these people are wrong and these people are right.
Yeah, it does get very distorted.
And the whole business about wrong and right. If you think you're right, you're usually wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the Buddhist way, isn't it? It's saying, that.
Yeah.
I remember walking with a chap from school. I used to walk the dog every day and happened to take the same route. And he was a Buddhist, and he would chat, and I was really interested about it. So I thought, I'm really open to this. I'll just absorb everything he says. And the 3rd or 4th time we happened to inadvertently meet, he said, "But you do know this is the only faith." And I thought, "You got to be mate. Is there anyone that tells me that their way is the only way?" I was really disappointed because I wanted to be open and loving. I thought, "You've really just put the nail on the coffin now."
Yeah.
That ego about you have to follow this one way.
Yeah. Oh.
And people also say, well, you can't just pick and choose. And I say, yeah, I can.
You can.
Because I'm me. This is me. I've got my little card here. It says, I'm free to be me. I am. And that's
so you, isn't it, that card?
I'm allowed to be me. I don't need to. I'm allowed to think. for myself. That's the other thing, isn't it?
But that's quite unusual, I think, now.
Yes.
You have to conform, even in education, you have to conform to the railway tracks, so we can only teach this way. If you don't fit into that, if you're dyslexic or hyper-intelligent, whatever it is, you're going to fall by the wayside.
Yes.
And in religion, you have to think a certain way. You don't get those options.
But it's so important in life to have an inquiring mind.
Yeah, I think so.
And that, just think to yourself,
well, even this stuff,
yes,
the spiritual stuff, you have to question it. I've questioned it all my life.
Of course.
Absolutely, 100%. Because it doesn't, you don't walk in this room and when I do the table on a Thursday morning, I dip in and out. I'm in and out, I'm meditating, I'm waiting for the cards, I'm waiting for the message, I'm waiting for them to tell me what we're going to be doing. I just don't walk in and go, whoop, got that, I could do that. And those cards come out and they're fascinating. And it looks like I've picked them, but I haven't. They've told me what cards to use, and I stand there, shut. Come on then, guys, what we do? And it sometimes takes ages. I put them cards down and I get the next pack and start shuffling, because it's like a process, and it's very hard to remove yourself, but you have to, because what comes out on that table, then I'll get the message, oh those cards really resonate with me this week, or I'll get something feedback on them, and you think they're just so clever. How well, you've seen this. It's like they wind me up and off you go. It's like you when you used to ring me and say, well, Stuart's here telling me I've got to see you now. It's got to be today or tomorrow. That night when you rang me, I thought, oh, I can't see you now. I've just had. So you came the next day with a minor.
Exactly, but that's right. I mean, it's really interesting, that stuff, isn't it?
It is.
Because you have to have this little person on your shoulder going, down. It's rubbish. You're making this all up. But then something like that happens where, I mean, I didn't know whether that was Stuart or anything. I just got this really, really uncomfortable feeling. And I had a huge sense that they were the only one that was going to be able to take this away. It's quite physiological, quite really unpleasant.
That's what I felt when I was messaging you and Jack about the marketing. It was like being pushed. I thought, I'm being a real pain here. But I just had to, I'm sorry, I've got to be part of this, but not in an ego way. It's like I've got to take a step towards that.
And I think it's very, and I think, it was very full on at the very beginning, wasn't it? That sort of sense of you wanting to come in and do it. I really got that strength, and I found that quite uncomfortable, actually, to say. But I feel completely comfortable about it now.
I felt uncomfortable about it too.
Yeah,
it makes any difference.
But I think it's quite an interesting thing.
What was really funny, for some reason, because it must have been Jack, it must have been you, that said, Mary Lou's coming round. Whatever day that was, and I wasn't aware of what that was. I made tea and cake. I thought, we're just having or whatever.
Like your tea and cake.
But it's all meant to be, isn't it?
But,
and like you're saying about
it's all happened.
Do what you do best and delegate the rest, and we've all brought something in.
Oh, exactly. And you've done wonders.
No, but it's interesting, isn't it? How it's all developed, and
do you know what? Although it is about spirit and about how I got spirit, it is also about you three as well.
Well, it's all about all of us. I think it's all about every single person.
Yeah,
everyone that's been interviewed.
And also
I get
people
that,
who necessarily
but it was about you.
You had to start
coming together and getting that. And if I stand and look back at the journey for those 2 years, it has been amazing. Even meeting Hermione was my dream come true, meeting a shaman. I can't tell you how big that was for me. Right from the day I read the first book for Alberta.
So interesting, isn't it?
So interesting.
That's another whole thing, shamanic practice. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and I only know teeny bit about it, but it's always, I'd like to know a little bit more. I think everybody has their roles. I think that's why I think it's really good that you're doing what you're doing now, because when we started off, there was this sense of the fact that we had to get. I had to get some kind of a story going, but also your role was so important because I'm not very good at the detail, and I really admit that, and everybody would laugh. I can hear my old colleagues laughing. I'm not good at the detail, and it was so comforting to have you sitting and you wrote piles. So every single time we sat here, you just wrote piles. And I thought, I know I've got this mic here, but that's fine. It's so lovely to know that you've got this sort of secondary book going on that was writing it. It was just such the best thing for me, because I was rather sticking my toe in water that I wasn't sure of. You know, I didn't want it to, I was very concerned that it would come across as contrived or, you know, something like that, sort of, or certainly what I was trying to write, I didn't want to sound judgmental. And in fact, that bit that you said that you liked, I wrote 3 times, because I wrote it, and then quite often what I'll do is I'll read it out loud. And I read it out loud and I thought, and that is, started all over again, because I just wanted it to be accessible. That's the thing.
You know what, with Jack being there, I found it comforting.
Yeah, she's so comforting.
You know?
I do.
think
And Charlie
that.
making the tea.
Yeah, we all had a role.
Can I ask you, do you still feel Stuart with you now? Right, no, okay. No, just thinking about the new work that you're doing.
Yeah.
I just wondered if he's moved on now.
Wilted.
Yeah.
It's exactly, it's very interesting, and in fact I was thinking about that yesterday, thinking exactly that. Isn't that strange, because he was so much part of my life, and that's why I know that my work with him is done.
Yeah.
I just feel that so strongly, because, and in fact I knew that once he'd done that last bit about saying goodbye and letting go, or whatever, I can't remember what the last bit he wrote. I just felt the same release and thinking, well, that's my bit done.
Yeah.
I've done what I can with him.
I don't feel him around so much either.
Really?
No.
He's not that sort of.
Do you think it's the fact that he's so proud of what's
He
in
is
the
proud
book
about the
that
book.
he knows, and that's going to help so many people?
Yeah.
And now his work
I
is
think
done
what
and he's
I
moved
get
on.
the feeling he's on the periphery now, and he's sort of leading us, sending all this stuff now. Like, this is the next stage, and I've not heard the words, I just get the feeling of that. Like the Rose, you know, you've seen the lovely
yes, I
picture,
know.
haven't you? Because she wasn't in on the book, was she really? I don't think she even did an interview. And she left here one day, she come here for something else, and as she left, she went and got her phone for the car, come back, and I found her out there taking photos of the Rose, and she said, I've got to take this Rose because this is you with your 3 boys, because there's 3 buds on it, and that's the photo.
Beautiful.
I mean, she was so in tune with it, wasn't she?
So you're saying all the people that you interviewed, the connecting thread was June, and then the intention that had June in our lives. Do you feel there's any other link or any other trait or characteristic that came up from their life experiences?
I'm always, the bottom line is I'm always amazed that people are so generous with what they tell you. That's really humbling. I find that that's never stopped right from the 20 years I've been doing it. So that was the first joy. But what linked everybody was this sense of a determination to explore. They're all explorers. And it's not about, I really object to the whole idea about saying I've got to go out and find myself. You're not out there, you're in here, and it's about being there. But I think most of the people are explorers, but they all recognise that what they need to do is work on themselves. And I found that really, sort of, again, humbling. I just thought to myself, well, that's really interesting that they all say, they all started a journey. I mean, I think one of the part of your story was the business about you tried lots of different things. Everyone, that was one of the common threads. I've tried all these things, and nothing seemed satisfactory. And then they had some kind of a catalyst. And partly it was the catalyst was meeting June by all sorts of really incredible routes, and I find that really interesting that everybody gets there. I mean, even me, this isn't something that I would have necessarily got involved in, but I have absolutely found it interesting. So it's about saying people who are willing to realise that there's a gap, and then are explorers enough, personal explorers enough to recognise they have to work on themselves in order to be able to do other work with other people.
That's what you're saying about being curious.
It is curious. And also I think the majority of people that I've met through June are very intuitive. And that's really quite unusual to have so many people who are intuitive in a room.
Were you surprised by any of the interviewees' responses?
So surprised. I sometimes came away feeling sad that people have to struggle so hard. That's the thing. That there's been, people either have come to this kind of world through real trauma and pain, and they were generous enough to share those stories. So it's more to do, I felt sadness more than surprise. The fact that they were willing to come and talk was that would have taken the element of surprise out of it. But it's that human life is, lots of struggle with occasional bits of sunshine, and people wanting a little bit more sunshine, which is absolutely our right and fantastic. They have to work so hard to get it. And the other thing is really interesting is timelines about the interviews, is that people have to go through a certain part of their lives, and it's about patience. This is something I have to learn, that I may want something abundantly, but I have to wait for it. I always have to wait.
Yeah.
It's a very
I'm always being told to be patient.
Patience.
Stand still. I've done it this morning. I've got it again this morning. You've got it too, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's about the waiting.
Yeah.
And it is a difficult one.
Yeah. Because in the stories, people got it when they were least expecting it.
Yeah.
They tried too hard. Come on.
Yes.
Come on. It
Yeah.
doesn't come.
It doesn't.
I play a game on my walks where I think I'm going to see a feather, and they always catch me out. It's usually I think there'll be a feather down here in a minute. There'll be a feather, and there isn't. And then just some coming to the end of my walk, there's a feather.
Yeah.
And I had to wait all the way
that's
through the
exactly.
walk.
I felt that
That's
the other day
life.
about yellow. I was going down a long track, and it was whatever had happened in our session, and it was all about yellow. All right, okay, show me yellow flower, and it's not I will believe you, but just prove it by the yellow flower. There's a long track, and I had in my head right at the end. I thought, no, come on, and I'm looking. There's loads of flowers, looking. As I get to the end, there's some rapeseed. Right at the end, you're right.
So what does that
we-
prove to us?
Well, it's
Sarah?
something about patience, and I think the thing is, there's that line, all things come to those who wait.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may have to wait several lifetimes,
Yeah.
is the bottom line of that. Is that it's not all going to come, it's not all going to get better. That's the other problem I have with this idea of, if you meditate hard enough, you'll get a true abundance. That's not
It
right.
really bothers me when people do that.
It's not. And then also then, if they don't, then they feel they
That's
failed.
exactly.
And that's happened in so many things that
Yes.
I've worked on, where there's been this almost zealot thing saying, we just have to meditate hard enough.
Do the work.
Yeah, we have to really, you need to meditate
Immerse
more.
in
The
it,
answer
yeah.
is that you just need to meditate more. Sometimes you have to just be a little bit kind to yourself and say, well, maybe I won't get it this time. Maybe that's not going to happen.
And I do really believe
that's
that.
about being kind to yourself.
It is.
Self-care.
Because
Yeah.
imagine how you beat yourself up.
Oh, terrible. I'm not doing it well enough. I
Yeah.
don't get it right.
I know.
That's why I laugh when people going around the room saying, I got this and I got that, and I say, I don't get anything. Because largely I don't get anything, but things come over here.
In different,
maybe 3 days
different ways,
later.
yeah.
But I certainly don't get it when I'm sitting in the room, because I'm sort of sitting looking.
Well, I sat for years in groups.
Yeah.
And I've never got much. And then when I get a big thing, and I remember I wanted to wait and talk to the woman that was running the group because it was so big for me. I had Jesus under this shower, and it was really in my face, really. And I went to talk to her, and she said, we'll have to go for tea and we'll discuss this. So we did, we went for tea. And there was another friend with me. And when we come away from there, she said, well, you got absolutely nothing from that. She couldn't answer your question. She said, but all you did was give her a reading. I said, did I? I found, there was nobody to talk to about it. I didn't get any help until Roz, really. I just used to want to go and sit in my own little space and do my own little thing because it was my little thing.
I think
this
that's
is where that
exactly what
little
you're
thing
talking about,
got
Mary Lou,
bigger.
and I think that's right. That's exactly it. Is that we sit around looking for a long time,
Yeah.
but there's something in us that says I'm willing to carry on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because quite a lot of things, I go and try all sorts of things, and I come away thinking, it's definitely not for me. I
Yeah.
can't. or I get myself really motivated to go and do something, and then I try it and I walk away and I think that didn't enjoy that.
So do you think it's having faith in yourself, that we all know a lot now, and just to be? It's about contentment. It's about saying I feel that about this group is that I feel content to sit and watch. I just feel completely content. I don't feel there's any expectation on me to be anything or do anything or anything else. I just feel content to be.
Even now, messaging people that want to join, that's what I'd give them the message. Just come and try it, put your foot in the water, and see if you like it. You haven't got to do anything. There's no expectation with it.
No.
I was going to ask what you were saying about the story of people's struggles and the things they've been through. Is it either, like Jean, you have to have lessons in life and you have the ups and downs, but actually the downs are massive lessons, and you learn through much through Stuart, it also enables you to empathise, and with all of us, you know, it's part of life's journey? Or do you think the struggles are people getting in their own way? Or is it both? They're making it harder than it needs to be.
No, I don't think you can make it harder than it needs to be. I don't think, because nobody wants suffering in their lives. But if you're asking, do people need to have suffered to have been able to find a way through? I don't think that's true either, because I think that there's a thing that we used to say when I used to work in sexual health, that you know, nuns are actually some of the best psychosexual counsellors because they can see it completely objectively. And I think with life, it is interesting in the stories that I listen to that people had struggles, but I think that's life. I don't think it's just that we have to have struggles in order to learn. I just think struggles are part of life, and I don't like the idea of, you know, I was just going to say we sink or swim, but we don't sink or swim. It's just our life. It's the way our life is. So, you know, one person's struggle would be another person's pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, I feel that so much in this time, I'm sorry to say the word COVID, is that, you know, I haven't quite liked spending my whole time at home at the very beginning and, you know, being stuck in the house and all those sort of things. But boy, you know, that's not a struggle compared to the person who's got 3 kids and living in a high-rise flat with a husband who beats her. So it's, all these things are relative. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think that I think struggles are life. It's life.
I think the thread that we'd come up with before is, in all the seeking, when people have done it, we decided it was all about just finding a connection.
Yeah.
Whether it be connection to yourself or connection to spirit, it was just landing, and rather than feeling lonely, as you were saying after Stuart and what you were seeking, and that we were trying to assimilate
I did feel lonely.
Your grief and saying me getting divorced or someone else who's very ill, what that common thread was, how often it takes a tragedy or a life shift to then make that connection.
Yeah, and that's where I think you do sink or swim, because I could have sunk then.
You could.
But there was something, there was a big thing that was...
Yes.
And I don't even know what that thing was.
No.
Because if you'd have asked me what I wanted to eat on a daily basis, I couldn't have told you. There was nothing other than that seeking.
I think that's absolutely right, June, and I think that's the difference. It's, when people say it's about being lonely or something like that, or, you know, I just felt alone, I think there are 2 things that join people in this group, and one is it's a missing. You know that you're missing. There's a bit of you missing. It's got an empty space.
Yeah.
And so, but you
and
know
that is true.
There is a way of seeking to find it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think joins all of us, is that maybe we all felt, I'm nervous about calling it loneliness, but there's certainly a missing. Maybe.
A separateness.
Feeling slightly different.
Yeah.
I mean, I think quite a lot of people feel
I think
different,
we all
feel a bit
different
alienated
and separate.
and othered.
And othered, yeah.
I
Definitely.
think all human beings feel slightly
and
othered.
if anybody says I'm completely, you know, okay with everything, I think they just are living in a false dream. because even though I work with this stuff all the time, that I have ups and downs with it, where I don't trust it or I don't believe. What's all that about? You know, I question it so much. But you know what's come out of this for me? The friendships.
Yes,
They're absolutely magic friendships. Even with some of the people that just come on and do the meditation.
But it is having all the quotes I've read out from the feminine face of God. It's about holding space.
Yeah.
Each of us speaking our truth, which allows another person to speak their truth,
Yeah.
which could be a totally different truth.
Yeah,
It doesn't
it
make
would
it
be.
wrong
No.
or right. It's just that's loving, non-judgmental, safe space in order
Yeah.
to everyone to experience this in their own way, to come to it like Bronwyn.
Yeah.
The fact that she listens to these
find it.
podcasts has enabled her to find a voice that for most of her life she's had to silence herself through
Yeah.
the dynamics she was in. And now there's this freedom for her going, I can speak this and I
Yeah.
know that you're going to hold my light or you're going to see my light.
Yeah.
I just think that's so
She's
beautiful.
been, actually, I think out of everybody, she just blows me away. Because she just, it's whatever it is on the head that we're trying to offer, which honestly I don't know what that is. They haven't informed me really. I just sit there and get on with it. But I find that interesting because to get that reaction on a Zoom, if you'd have told me that 2 years
know.
ago, I'd have gone, yeah, right. And who told me that, Hermione?
Really?
She did. Not about Zoom, she said, but you won't be doing standing up in front
You were
of
talking
them.
about standing on stage, weren't
Yeah.
you?
That's right.
But do you think about somebody like Bronwyn? There must be thousands of people out in the
know.
world
Yeah.
That are like that.
yeah.
And wouldn't it be wonderful
Yeah.
to access them? That's my dream now.
Yeah.
That is really totally my dream upon everything else. And that for me would be abundance.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's important that the book is the absolute basic first introduction.
Yeah.
Because there aren't many books like that. There are lots of books that assume you know about all
Yes.
this stuff. And people like Bronwyn, and I've been reading it avidly. I may not be there, but I'm watching from the back. And I'm reading it and thinking to myself, yeah, I'm really glad that it's already had an effect. The other thing that really joins us all together, and that is the reason why I stay and don't walk away going, that's not for me, is the humour.
Yes.
First of all, the people accept my humour and that
Yes.
I tend to, break down and say, there, just at the time when everybody's getting a bit serious. But the fact that it is humour is that I think, you sometimes go to these sort of groups and everybody's so worthy.
Oh.
And you dare say
Take yourself very seriously.
Yeah, and I can't. And my response to when everybody's taking themselves seriously is, of course, is to break up the thing. And I'm very irritating. People sort of go, you're not taking it seriously.
But that's
It's a
the
whole big
best
joke.
thing now.
And it is, and
It's
because
what
it's like the
makes me
person on your
tick.
shoulder saying, really though? Are
Yeah.
you really hearing somebody? Or
Yeah.
are you really doing something? It really is. I mean, I'm so grateful for that voice, because the moment that voice isn't there, I'll think, there's something weird going on. You've got to have that, and the fact that people laugh about all this and also
It is
accept my
laughable,
humour is
isn't
hugely
it?
important to me.
It is lovely. I used to love Jane coming to me.
But the angels used to say in meditation,
Yeah.
when you used to introduce them, we loved the laughter.
The
And
laughter.
they
That's
always
right.
commented
That's
on the
right.
light-hearted.
Yes,
And
yes.
And that's what
It really
brings them.
is. Yeah.
I really believe that brings them closer.
And you
Because
have the
we're
best
like,
laugh, June, on
I
the
know.
planet.
I know.
So
If I've got to tell you this story.
Yeah.
We was in Rye and with friends, and I think it was maybe just after, might have been just before still actually. I always do things before and after. But anyway, I was quite happy. I felt that's how I feel. I was quite happy. And there was this shop called Serendipity, and it was long and it was full of pretty things. I was into the pretty stage. I had a house with chintz in it and all that stuff. Pretty little cottage. So, and this was a really long shot, and I was right at the back. And the girl I was with, obviously we were laughing. And I come out, and there was this woman standing talking to Charlie. Should I knew it was you? I sat next to her at school.
amazing.
Oh, wow.
And she heard that laugh in that shop.
She recognised
Yeah.
you.
You could not make that one up, could
That's
you?
fantastic.
I said, what are you doing here? She went, Olivia. What are you doing here? I said, oh, obviously laughing in there.
Yeah.
I don't know whether your laugh has not changed over all the years, though.
That is
I used to-
brilliant. I love
Never, ever.
That's so
Everybody
fantastic.
knows me about my
That's
life.
fantastic.
Everybody.
But I think that's, that's so important. It's so important, and not to take yourself too seriously, and to know that we've just got to try and be comfortable with who we are.
We have. And
And-
I think that's the most important
Yeah.
thing.
I
I think that's what this stuff gives us.
Yeah.
It's being really good in your own skin and accepting who you are. And all that stuff happens to you. Everybody has stuff happen.
But if you love yourself, then you love yourself, then you can, that
That
will
radiates,
radiate
doesn't it?
throughout, and then
And maybe that's what brings us together.
Yeah.
The people that, because there isn't I don't know anybody in the group that I would say was a bad apple or
No.
comes with too much gloom and doom. It's when if we sit in here together, that feeling used to be amazing. I do like that better than doing it on Zoom, but obviously it's not available now, is it?
I think it's important to sort of clarify the whole business about what it means to love yourself, because
Yes, Jane,
it's
please.
not about vanity or
No.
God, I really love myself. My daughter had a friend who's a bit of an actress, and she did a show, and I said, how did you get on? And she said, they loved me and I loved me.
Oh.
And I thought, oh dear. And I thought, right, fine, okay. So it isn't about that. It isn't about that saying, I am just the
Best.
the best.
Oh.
It's about when all the chips are down. I remember a really terrible time in my life. I mean, you couldn't have written it was so awful. I remember sitting there and laughing and saying, God, I'm not even any good at being depressed.
Exactly.
And that's the whole
Do you know
thing
what?
about being able to suddenly have this bubbly up feeling of I'm quite content with, the Jane, this person who wanders on my walks and, chats to the trees and all that strange thing. I think I'm quite content to be me.
I am enough.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
it's about that
huge.
stuff.
There's
It
so
is
much.
huge.
We're so judged by media, and if you have this, you'll be happy.
Yeah.
And what you
And
look
by
like.
ourselves, it is. It's a really. It's not a hard place to be, but it's.
Do you know?
I was
Gets-
brought up to
gets
be
in the way.
judgmental about myself, and I think
Yes, me
I
too.
think I have left quite a lot of that behind. I do think I don't. I'm just
Do you
so
think
grateful
that's an
to
age
be.
thing? You get to an
Yeah,
age where
I
you
think
think,
it's an age thing
what
as
was all
well.
that about
I
anyway?
know. It's just
Do you know the
I
day
don't mind.
when it was Stuart's funeral actually, and we was coming back in the car, and it was my mate Rita was a stand-up comedian, and she's the lady that stood by me every day before. I mean, Stuart's funeral didn't happen quickly either, for lots of reasons, but she did come every day and be with me. And she pulled up, because she drove that day, she didn't come in the cars, and she pulled up alongside me in the car. And she said something, mouthed something to me, which was really rude. And I stuck my fingers up and I did laugh, and I thought, you've really cracked now, you're laughing at a time like this. But it was good. I felt really good that I could actually find that laugh
exactly.
again.
You can still do it.
And you know, at work, first time up, because obviously everybody knew I had this laugh at work, I laughed for the first time, and the whole office, and at the personnel office at the bank was massive, everybody went silent. And they all looked round and thought, and the message I got all day was, June's back. She's
Isn't that
back.
lovely?
So, do you know that's so important?
It is
isn't
so
it?
important.
That you've
That's
got
so
that,
lovely.
whatever that is, it never took that away. I don't know, obviously you get lost in all that grief and stuff, don't you?
I think
But
also
the
it's
laugh-
about having a humility and a realness, because I don't want anyone either hearing this or reading the book going, oh, it means I've got to be this all the time.
No.
Or, most religions, you're having to be pious, aren't you? You're having
Yes.
to take it seriously. But the fact when Jack and I came last week and you weren't having a great day for various reasons, and we were saying, well, you're our teacher, and actually it's really, from my perspective, the humanness of you actually having a really shit day, it makes it okay for all of us to have a shit day. We were fantastic by the end of it, your light came back, and the energy came back, but we are humans having spirits having a human experience. It's that humanness it is. We are going to be happy and sad, and we can't just sit in something and conform.
And I couldn't hide it. It's not about, I couldn't hide how I feel.
We shouldn't have to.
I never can, anyway. It comes to the surface, and it was and maybe that was meant that day, the same, for me to be as miserable as I can.
Well, then you could release it, couldn't you?
Yeah,
then you could release it, talk about it, accept it, and then you could move on.
Yeah.
And Jack and there was no judgment from us. We were just holding space, and it was just watching you transform from being one state to another.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel the grief does. Is someone can go, I'm having a really bad day, or this having that experience, or to break down crying, and we just hold space with no judgment and with love.
Yeah.
Going, she's up or she's down, but we're still either way going to non-judgmentally be there for you and just wait.
Going back to Bronwyn, she broke down, didn't she, on the Zoom. And Jack's, because I did say to her, you just cry, I'm going to leave you now. And Jack said, that was so nice that you said that to her. It was giving her permission to cry. And that's what I think is good, because we're brought up with, don't cry. I was
Stiff upper lip, isn't it?
I was definitely brought up like that. They wouldn't have heard me if I had anyway. But that's their stuff, not mine. I'm much more touchy-feely than where I come from. Definitely. But, that was she has brought us so much, that girl. She's taught me loads, to be honest. In that short space of her actually getting to grips with what's going on with her.
It's been in the build-up. It's been almost a 2-3 week build-up to the temple path, and it was like she was experiencing and verbalising everything in order to take us there.
Yeah, she
writes so beautifully. Despite her saying she doesn't, I really think she does.
Yeah.
And it bears her soul and is so beautifully honest and vulnerable within that. I think to me, she's like a way shower, isn't she? Going forward.
Yeah,
I think she's amazing.
that first time when I got that long message, I just was stunned. I was stunned into silence. Now, where does that happen? And I said, all I kept saying was, please let me share this, because the others are going to have, going to get so much from this, and you'll get the replies back to what you're sort of. I couldn't even answer it for ages. Took me ages.
So it validates for you as well, because I know it's so you struggle to be on the Zoom to feel the energy, be present with that. For you, it's like, well, I'm just doing a podcast, or I'm doing on Zoom. There's no way it's going to have the same effect. But for you to see the impact on Bronwyn, I think has given you the confidence to stride forward. So that's why I think again she's a way shower, because she's opening up that path for you. Gosh, if I can get to Bronwyn, and there are, as you say, Jack, 100,000, 1 million Bronwyns out there.
Yeah.
So if you can touch her,
and that's
you can touch
why
them all.
I always say to Jack, come and sit in here with me, because at least I'm doing it to one person. Like a person. That's how I feel about it.
The energy in the room, though, is very powerful, isn't it?
I always see her face like that.
Just sit there and go.
I'm always really amused because there's a pigeon that comes, and quite a lot of them, and it's so noisy.
It is.
It's so unbelievable.
He sits out on the. He sits out there on the
He
base.
makes the most incredible, and it always makes me laugh. I just think to myself, I don't know what.
They know. When I start working, the birds start
They're
chirping.
going away,
Yeah.
Real. That's rather nice. Those are the nice bits. It's quite comforting.
Yeah, and he's loud, isn't he?
Very loud. But he doesn't not loud all the time. He sort of goes quiet for a bit, and then suddenly comes back, and it's
I think, why does he choose that time to sit here? He sits over there. Really? He sits on the post over there normally, but those nights he sits over here.
Yeah, very noisy pig.
I've asked you about how you felt about the interviewees. How did you feel when you interviewed June?
Be nice.
I think I've said this in the book as well. I'm, because of the person on my shoulder, I'm always concerned about channeling. It's difficult. It's a bit like when you're using a pendulum and you're saying, am I doing this? It's all those things. But what was really extraordinary was this change in June when she'd be talking perfectly normally and chatting and everything else, and then suddenly she'd stop and say, and this whole different way of speaking started. So
That's
it's like
what you say, isn't it?
very interesting. I found that really interesting. I mean, obviously, I felt a huge sense of responsibility. I knew this had been discussed for a long time, and then I had decided I'd do it. And I thought, well, who am I to say that I can even make an attempt at this? So I had this huge concern, but that went after the first one, because once I sort of got an idea about what you wanted, and the fact that Jack was there as this, she's always this holding thing, and Hermione was saying that as well, this got this real strength, like a solid rock there that's really calm and everything. And so I felt the dynamics was very good. But initially, I've been doing this all my life. I say, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. And then I suddenly think, I can't do it. So the first bit was, quite hard. But once I knew that everything you said was from the heart, and it was really hard from you, and my job was to make sure that I held you enough to make it safe for you to say the things that you said. Once I understood my role and knew that I probably had sufficient skills to be able to guide us through, I was all right. I mean, huge honour. It's this thing you just sit should I be doing this? But I just thought I'll go with it. It was a huge honour and hugely courageous on June's part. None of what you were saying was easy. It was extremely distressing, and I wasn't kind. I hear myself on the tape, and I say, "Can you tell me a little bit more about that?" And you're, I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Because I just think I knew once we were there, we had to keep going.
Yeah.
And
I didn't take it personally.
For agreements.
Yeah, the first time that's ever worked.
I still think it was really funny that time when you were channeling, and sometimes your voice will change when you're channeling rather than telling the story, and you were on your seat and you moved and you got a telling off, didn't you, about about having to wrap yourself in a gold band-aid.
That's right.
And it was this wasn't for the book, was it?
No,
but it was just a message for you, and I'm sitting there thinking, you can't make this up. This was amazing.
She had turned round and she said, and turned her face and said, and so I thought to myself, woo.
What's that about then?
I can't remember what the context was, but I remember being
it's about protection.
About
protection, and just visualise a golden band-aid.
And this is for you. You've got too much going on at the moment. Are you protecting yourself enough? So it was that was very, very strong. And I knew that my style of questioning, where I will push through even when somebody's distressed. At the beginning, when June started crying, and I carried on asking questions, I could see you looking at me, going, "Is this necessary?" She's crying.
But it was deep. But I think it was good for you because actually it was probably really good for you to talk about it.
It was,
and then it's out now, and that will help so many people.
Yeah, exactly.
I was there with the tissues.
It's interesting because I'm reading that book that you gave, The Way to God. She was talking about that last night, about sitting in that, not that you had depression, but sitting in that dark place and really sitting in it, because it's so easy to go, actually I'm feeling really uncomfortable and I want to come out of this, but actually the depth and the coming out of it comes by being in it. Not by
it does.
I'm not saying it very
clearly.
You work your way through it. So what you were doing by talking to June is rather going all uncomfortable, uncomfortable. It's actually, if we do that, then I can leave it behind me. That's part of the process. But it can feel quite cruel or impossible for some people.
But I think if you don't, when you got to the point of tears, if you don't keep going, then as you say, you dip in and out, and that's crueler. That's very horrible.
I'm going to rescue you, but then I'm going to let you go back in.
Exactly. That's so horrid. And but anyway, it was worth it, I think, because the quality of the stuff that we got was very, very good.
I'll do.
So Jack, how did you feel, apart from watching Jane be really mean? How did you feel holding that space and being there for June? What was that experience like for you?
It was to be honest, doing it, together, it was just an honour to be there. But it was deep. It was deep, a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be. But to see June like that, because June, I've known you for 10 years, but you were coming up with stuff that I'd never heard before.
I've never talked about it.
And
not in here, anyway,
yeah,
as a group.
It was, sometimes it was quite upsetting to see you, because you've obviously experienced so much pain, and it was like reliving the pain. But I think that was important for you to do that, to get that in the book.
It, I think.
But I couldn't have done. But it was just to watch
maybe
it.
That was why Jack didn't do it.
Because I've known you for a long time, and maybe too close.
Yeah.
But the whole it was an amazing experience.
It was.
But it was. I think you really got in there. You had to really, and really your whole life. Stemming back from a young child. You had quite a hard upbringing.
Yeah.
And some of that was hard for you to talk about, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was hard. Because you feel like you're letting the people down that brought you up, and they didn't know any better.
But all the way through, you were talking about the knowing. I had the knowing. I knew when I got home in the evening there'd be a parcel for me or whatever. And I know the bit about, I had to ask about, how Stuart died and what happened. And because the book wouldn't have been authentic without that, because really that was the catalyst, as you just said, which is beautiful. I wish I put it in the book. There's the before and then there's the after, and that has changed your life. In some ways, it's given you great gifts.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to have people around you who care enough to be able to. So there's been, but it wasn't a comfortable thing, was it?
I think the before and after is important for me. The before was absolutely lovely, and from that after, I miss her a lot, of course I do. But there's been a greater value from that.
Yeah. I thought it was lovely.
And I felt honoured, to be honest, that I was his mum, and he did what he did, and he could feel that he could do that. That was his responsibility to do what he did. It makes me feel a bit funny, actually. I think he must
when he says in the book about Mum, I'm with you all the time.
Yeah.
And that was really...
Yeah.
That was hugely important.
Yeah.
And the lovely thing he said about the fact that I'm with you more than all your other sons are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you all.
I read that yesterday. Actually, had I stayed in life, you wouldn't have seen me that much,
Exactly.
because I would have moved away.
Yeah.
But actually, I see you more now in spirit than I potentially would have done.
Yeah, because he was
so
permanently.
He is in here.
He is
I've got
here,
that,
isn't he?
yes, I've got this. I've got his.
Yeah, because why I started talking like that.
Over here.
Yeah, he is.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it is, there are things like those things, like talking about Stuart, but also about the things that happened afterwards. All those things were really important to get in there. And I hope I have, I didn't want to put you couldn't really put into words the level of distress that you were in while you were talking. And I don't think that was necessary in the book, because that's too exposing. But what's important is to be able to tell the story of how you got to where you are. And what you've done since.
Well,
That was really good.
The mum out there that doesn't believe in this, I feel sorry for them. Yeah. If they haven't got that amount of knowledge or whatever that was I had spirit around me, I do feel sorry for them.
I did have to ask that question. I remember asking the question, thinking to myself, and I said to you, this isn't going to be an easy question to ask, but is what you've gone through now, it was just a psychological response? Is it just like something like a psychologist would say, this is just a way of dealing with grief?
Yes.
And I remember thinking to myself, this isn't a very easy question to ask June, because I knew the answer, but I think for the book, it had to be in there, because I remember Rain, when I was interviewing Rain, she was talking about from a completely psychological point of view, and I actually asked her that question, and she said it's easy to make that assumption, but she didn't think that was true. And I thought, well, that's good coming from a psychologist.
She was a psychologist.
Yeah, that's right. And then I thought, that's why I knew I had to ask you that question. And you were and what was really refreshing was that you were completely upfront about it. You say, I can see that people would say that.
They would, yeah.
Of course they would. But look at all the other stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
It can't possibly be that. And I thought, well, we dealt with it at that time. We can part of that now. But those questions need to be asked, because that's when you're reading a book as a newbie with the person on your shoulder. You're saying, really though? Really though?
And one of those people is going to be a mum
Of course.
that's lost somebody,
Of course.
a child,
Looking for something.
and looking for someone.
And that
if
book will give them hope.
That one person gets something
It's all
and
worth
goes looking.
Yeah.
How did you feel after these days of interviews? Was it cathartic? Was there moving through it? Although I'm sure it was very raw.
To be honest, I think it was time to talk about it, because I didn't cry that much, did I?
No, after that first initial time.
That first time, I think for me, spirit is my inner strength. So I was allowed to talk and not get. If you'd have asked me that maybe 10 years ago, maybe I'd have fell apart. But no, I didn't feel the falling apart. I felt okay with it. It felt a job well done, maybe.
Do you feel you've moved through it?
Yeah, I do. And what's nice for me, that Jane saw me channeling that stuff, because I know a lot of that stuff come from Stu, what I said. So I would have had his strength, because he was strong in life, and he's obviously strong over there. And the nicest part was young Katie, because she sees my eyes change, and to me she's a child, and she witnessed the change. And I don't talk about that stuff. That she witnessed that, and for me that meant so much, because she wanted to know what colour Stuart's eyes were, because she was putting them with the same colour that my eyes go when I channel. So that's obviously how close Stuart comes. What an honour. I've always felt, this is why I've always thought maybe I've got a madness. I've always felt very privileged and honoured to have I know that sounds really sick. To have a son that did what he did, to become what it's all become from. But I felt honoured before that. And I used to actually go to the doctors and say to them, I think I've got a madness, because I understand what's going on. And I did think that. I understand what's gone on. I understand it far more than I should do, that I'm in grief. I don't know. That's what's always happened to me. I've always understood it. Like, I knew that we must have sat down at that table together, and Stuart would have said to me, well, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be your son, and I'm going to do this, so get used to it. That's how he would have talked to me. So maybe I had a bit of that knowing, I don't know. And I can feel him, he's feeling quite different. This is not my tears, this is Stuart's. God, step back, Stuart. He's just said to me, I can't believe how brave. How brave you are, man.
You have this amazing inner strength. And this is such a huge thing for you to do this book, which is going to help so many people.
You know. Cool, can you feel him? He said, I wish I was here and I could draw your picture. That's why that picture meant so much to me.
Maybe the picture could go in the book as well.
I think it needs to be honest.
Yeah. Should charge you royalties. So, Jane and Jack, has helping write the book changed you, or what impacts it had on you?
I'd say the bondship we have has been amazing, hasn't it? I just feel so honoured to have been part of it.
You was chosen. You chose who did this.
And do you know what's really funny, Jane? We did our new shed together, and we didn't know each other. First time we walked in, didn't know each other, and we had that connection sort of cut back 2 years before, and then here we are together.
That was quite an amazing thing, wasn't it? It was, when I asked both of you, it was yes, we'll do that together.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah.
And that was an amazing day, like yours and Katie's. That was those days are so special.
They are.
Yeah,
So
no,
there
I
is a
just
bond,
say
yeah.
an amazing bondship, which, and I know we don't see each other a lot
No.
now, but we don't need
I
to.
don't need to.
But you know,
Yeah.
it's I feel that I've got an amazing friend out
Yeah.
of this as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
The friendship,
friendships will
yeah.
never ever break this.
And I
From
said that
this.
to you the other day when we went out, and I said, and you said something to me, and I really surprised. You said, you said, well, I think you said something like, you won't disappear now, and I said,
Yeah,
You're
that's
my
how
friend.
I'd have felt. I had
you're my
that
friend,
feeling
I
because
know.
you'd stepped away from it.
I know.
It was like you was going to disappear into the.
I know, but I'm really sad. In some ways, that makes me feel really sad because I would never do that.
But a job done.
I know exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
And I feel that, and I said that at the beginning. Yeah, I feel
And
that
I
my
think
bit's
that's what
done.
I
Yeah.
felt. The job's done, and maybe for Jack it isn't done
I know.
because she's
She's got
around
to come
me.
here
She's
a lot
got to
more.
come here and be with me.
But I think we all have different roles, don't we? And
Yes.
then we all go and spread our love and light wherever we
Exactly.
go, and then, but we're still
We've
part
got
of that kind of
this.
sisterhood together, which is really
Yeah.
important.
And you know what Spirit did say to me? What we had in the room was so important because everybody that sat in this room has gone off, like those little
Yeah,
roots
Yeah.
to do their bit. Even your kids,
yeah,
even Kat,
yeah.
she's shedding her light now. And Dan, yesterday, I know when the spring comes he's going to blossom, but it's something about what they've been given as a gift, and they're going to take that
Yeah.
on. And
But
I
it's
think
what
that's
you've
so
taught
important.
us that we
Even
then,
Daisy,
yeah,
she's part of it. She ain't been in here. She's part. Look at that, as if she could not be part of it. It's
That's all right, June.
amazing, isn't it? And I don't think we'll ever lose that.
No, I don't. I just,
And I hope
just think
well,
it's there.
don't.
It's just there.
Yeah,
And that's the way I feel. I just think it's there. And that's what you're saying, that you and I don't see each other that much, but I just think it's there.
yeah.
And I worry sometimes that people think, and that clearly there was that point that he thought I was being remiss. I mean, I hate that idea because for me, once you friendship, just that's it. You don't.
Yeah.
I'm not a
I'll
fair
pick
weather
it.
friend.
I'm like that though.
Yes.
But not everybody else is
No.
like that.
But one of the responses you said about being involved in the book, there was partly it was embarrassment. There was a bit of me that felt slightly embarrassed that I was sort of setting myself up this way. You know, that because my terror of ever being seen as the big I am, that I just there was a bit of it embarrassment.
That's why
Yeah,
you was chosen to do it because that's where I was coming from.
I remember thinking I'm slightly embarrassed. You know, somebody asked me what I was doing. It's a bit like, I can't think of that way to put it. It's a bit like the sort of feeling of saying, well, who do you think you are? That's
Yeah, exactly. I got the same feeling, Jane.
because it was so huge, the stuff that was coming from you. I kept thinking to myself, oh, this is a bit.
Sort of elevating yourself above where you should be.
I know, and June Barclay's a shocker. You know, she'll always keep buying you presents, and every time you bought me a present, I think to myself, oh my goodness, you know.
Well, you know where that
If I
comes
don't
from.
deliver, if I don't deliver,
But you know, Jane, that came because I thought, well, if it doesn't go, you just by saying, I will do this, let's do it. Putting both feet in and thinking after maybe. I thought, well, if I buy you something each, and this is as far as we get, I've paid for that little bit that you've done, and that really made me happy.
I know, and I knew that was important to you, but
It
the
was.
last thing I wanted was payment.
Oh, I know,
Yeah,
I know
I
all
would
that.
never.
I
I did
that.
it because you're my friend, and
Yeah.
there was a problem I could see.
Yeah.
And then I saw Jack, and she's my friend, but I thought I could read, and feel in her face, thinking, "Oh shit, what have I taken on?" and I thought, I think I could probably solve this.
Honestly, Jane, I wouldn't have even really known. I mean, I was thinking more of a children's book when I said, in my, one day I'd like to write.
been a children's
Yeah, well, there you go.
I'm childlike.
We could do that next time. No, but it was like where to start. But that was,
And she was all brave though to
I know.
start
Well,
with.
I know.
and it's when you get an dictaphone and right, you go off and do the interviews. Yeah,
Oh,
but
to be honest, I was quite oblivious
Yeah.
that Jack. I knew she was wanted to do it, but I was quite oblivious.
Well, I
of
think
it.
it's like you say, you're a doer, and it's doing it, and I'm a yes person. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then you go, whoa, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be.
I think
This
so.
is huge, and that was a year and a half, nearly 2 years.
I find it all so, like that was that road again, and off you go on that path, man.
But
Then
I was saying to you 2 weeks ago about that sense of when we decided about the temple path, and we were both saying, I feel this huge sense of responsibility now, and I'm going, oh, I really hope that I'm up for this.
Exactly.
But for me, it was. I think I'm talking about the trustful. I have to sit back and I have to, because I'm a doer and I will push.
I know.
And for me, it's about sitting and not pushing and allowing Spirit to take us and trusting that I'm the right person and trusting. Because when we decided to temple, I think, oh my God, now to me as the more the marketing head to
where did
you
that
do
come
these things.
from?
I'm going,
I know.
am I pushing in the right direction? Am I not saying something I should be saying? So I totally get that. But for me, it's like I have to trust because I can set myself.
But I think that's
by
what
worrying.
maybe this is the gift that you've been given, is that you know that this isn't going to be on your time, but it's not a Mary Lou time frame.
No, it's definitely
No,
not.
I know. And so
It'd be
that's
lovely
a
floating down the
really
river.
good-
Yes, she actually got it.
I just did it.
Open to receive. Just make sure you're floating upwards.
You came in like a Gatling gun, and everyone's going, whoa! And then I thought to myself, no, this is the Mary Lou time frame. And so that when you suddenly said, oh yeah, I've got to do it on June time, then that's fine. And that's
been a big lesson for me.
I know,
I
that's
did
what
that
I
with
said.
Hillary as well.
This is a big learning curve, isn't it? So and we've all got something out of that. And I think from that, obviously I've got out of it friendship, haven't I? I've got friendship out of it, and and learning to value people, and learning and always, loving people.
And maybe
stories.
out of that came as well, but you can't judge a book by its cover, because I come in as this, I don't show that side of me, so everybody just thinks, oh, good old June, have a laugh, do meditation, off you go. But there's more to that, how that all came around. So maybe that's the interesting side as well.
I think that's right.
Because it's the human side of me, that all that stuff did actually happen. And that I think, Stu got this. I think there is words.
Oh, right, there you are.
Okay. Is he close to you? Can you feel him still?
I asked him to move away because it gives me a pain in my head here. And I just asked him, I said, is there anything else you want me to say? And he just went round and round and round and round. So say what you like, mate.
Is there any more you want to Oh, yeah, look. So carry on.
Okay,
No.
I'm no aware that Jack has
Jack,
to leave
you've
us,
got
so
to go.
I'm going to ask for 3 words that you either hope the book is going to be or that you feel the book is, from both of you.
Oh, still.
Hope, inspiring.
I think love is the thing that's the word that comes to my mind. I hope that people will feel that it's done with love and that it should be received in that way. And support is another one. I think it may support people to be able to sort of continue on their journey. And the third one, I would say, well, the immediate word that comes into my mind is friendship, because it is that business about being able to, the book is given in the gift of friendship. And maybe that's something to start the book or end the book. It's given in the gift of friendship. If it helps, I think you said that at the beginning. If it helps, it helps, and we're all grateful. How you receive it has really got nothing to do with us. It's what's important, isn't it, to know it's given with a good heart and good intention. So I think that's where we are really.
So I think that love and support and friendship potentially to go around the world. I just think that's really beautiful.
And that's what you said, wasn't it? That's what you wanted to get out to the universe.
Yeah. The love for spirit as well. Spirit that love us. To push us to these extremes. So that the rest of humanity can feel it. Can feel that love. That there is somebody there. Maybe. That's all we need. That was important to me. I needed to feel like there was somebody there. And maybe for me that was spirit. Because my family certainly didn't understand. and a lot of the friends didn't. So I think Spirit just stepping at the right moment. And maybe that's we say about the book, guided, maybe a good word, because you'll be guided to it.
Yeah. And I think by putting the temple path in at the end, so when they read that book and it gives people hope and love, but they've got something afterwards as well.
Yeah,
you know.
somewhere to go to maybe to witness, or even if you sit in on one and witness it and feel, well, that's not for me. But if you
to know
step
that there
your
is
toe,
something that they can step into if they want to,
yeah,
rather than feel lonely at the end. And what do I do with
and
this?
nobody's pushing it on them, but then that is their choice. Yeah, which is always their choice, isn't it? If we put our toe in the water and if we like it, it's certainly our choice.
Thank you so much for listening to the Hera Hotspot podcast. I hope you enjoyed our chat. Until next time, take care.